Good evening and welcome to our midweek Bible study here at the Fulton Church of Christ. We appreciate you joining us here. I know this is a different format than we usually use in that we are using a recorded video instead of our typical Zoom class. We apologize for that, but due to the threat of severe weather and the availability of power, internet, and such, we thought it would be better if we went ahead and recorded this early, and that way you can watch this. If you're able to watch it Wednesday night, great. If not, you watch it later, or maybe you watch it a little ahead of time. We appreciate your understanding this, so that means we won't have our usual Zoom, but we'll still have the class, and remember, we're getting ready to start back into our classes in the next few weeks, so we will have a streamed version of that as well, so we'll have some more changes. I'm saying we'll have more changes coming up in the next few weeks. But for tonight, let's look where we're at. We're in Exodus 26. We got about halfway through Exodus 26 last week. We are in Exodus 26, beginning in verse 15. We are talking about the tabernacle. You remember last week we talked about the altar or the ark that was in the tabernacle, the mercy seat. We talked about the table of showbread, talked about the lampstand. Then we talked about the curtain that was to adorn the outside of this tabernacle. Then the goat skin curtain that would go over it. Then the other skins that would go on top of it. I appreciate someone after class brought out the point that what I was looking for last week, I talked about the sea cow. I was talking about the manatee. The manatee, those are the type of those in Africa in the Red Sea that they think would have been that sea cow cover that was being used on this. So in talking about the coverings, we next are going to talk about the framework. What does the tabernacle, the inside of the tabernacle look like? And then we're going to talk about today the courtyard. What does the outside look like? And again, it's very interesting, the details that God gives and he lays out for all these things to be accomplished. If you would begin with me in verse 15, he says, "You shall make upright frames for the tabernacle of acacia wood. 10 cubits shall be the length of a frame, and a cubit and a half the breadth of each frame. There shall be 2 tenons on each frame, fitting together, so you shall do for all the frames of the tabernacle. You shall make the frames for the tabernacle, 20 frames for the south side. 20 frames for the south side, and 40 bases of silver you shall make under the 20 frames. These bases under one frame for its 2 tenons, and 2 bases under the next frame for its 2 tenons. And for the second side of the tabernacle, on the north side, 20 frames. And there are 40 bases of silver, 2 bases under one frame, and 2 bases under next frame. And for the rear of the tabernacle's west wall, the rear of the tabernacle westward, you shall make 6 frames. And you shall make 2 frames for corners of the tabernacle in the rear. They shall be separated beneath. They shall separate beneath and joined at the top at the first ring. Thus shall it be with both of them. They shall form the 2 corners. And there shall be 8 frames with their bases of silver, 16 bases, 2 bases under one frame, and 2 bases under another frame." So what he's talking about here, he's talking about these wall sections. And this is a description or picture, an artist's rendition of these. And again, there's some question about exactly how these frames would work. But when he talks about the tenon, he's talking about on the side. You'll notice on the side of these two of these blocks, there are a protrusion. There is a piece of the wood is sticking out, and then the other side of the wood would have a hole where that frame was that piece of wood would slide in. And so basically what you did is you created, or God did, is God created an interlocking frame. So what these walls would do, these walls would connect together on the sides. Then on bottom they'd have 2 of these tenons that would go down into a silver base. So basically what God was doing is he's creating a portable base, a portable building, portable structure, I guess would be a better way of putting this, where this would be able to be moved and be very simple to pick up and move. Now, the other thing about these is you'll notice this aligns the inside of the tabernacle, and these were to be made of acacia wood. Acacia was a very sturdy, heavy, a good wood, but it was also a lightweight wood. And then this wood was be covered in gold. And so a lot of people come along and say, okay, well, if you've got these frames, there's 20 frames on one side, or south side, 20 frames north side, and then I forgot exactly the number on the east. I think it was 8 on the west side. that's going to create some pretty heavy wood if you've got wood covered in gold. And so what some archaeologists believe and Bible scholars think that the way this is described, this may not have been a solid piece of wood like we're looking at here. Instead, this may have been more like a lattice work or a trellis, in that they were a frame. There was holes in the middle of it. And another reason for that would be is, you remember last time we talked about that beautiful curtain that was supposed to be have the cherubim woven into it. If this wood is solid, if these are solid boards like the picture is here, then when you put that, depending on how you put that curtain, you're going to lose something. If you put that curtain to the outside of this frame, and I'll show you the whole picture in a minute right here. If you put that curtain outside this wooden wall, then what you do is you can't see that curtain. Only part of that curtain you can see is what's on the ceiling. And that sort of defeats the purpose of the curtain. Why would God go through the work, and why would God demand the work of making cherubim all throughout this thing and making it such a brilliant and great design to be looked at when you only see the top of it? And the other thing would be, well, what if you put it on the inside? Some people think, well, okay, this inner circle, this inner curtain, but have a rod on the inside, and it was set inside the temple wall, tabernacle wall. Yes, that would work. That's a possibility. However, the problem is you're coating these boards with gold. You're making these wooden bars were something you'd want to behold and look at, but yet you're covering them up. So how would you solve that issue? What would God do that could possibly answer both these questions or solve both these problems? Well, that's where I go back to where I said a minute ago. If you create a trellis type system or a lattice type where these boards are not full, or not big pieces of like 2x6 or actually more than that, huge chunks of wood, they're actually lattice. They've got holes in them. And another thing that would solve is that solves the problem of weight, because these boards that again are 18 inches wide, if they are at least 18 inches wide, they are going to be heavy if they're covered with gold. And so what most people think is what this is actually more of a lattice work. And so that lattice work would answer this question, because if you have a lattice that has a frame in it, has an open hole in the middle and just has this frame, then when you put the curtain on the outside, you can still see the curtain. That curtain is still able to be viewed, or that covering is still able to be viewed, and you still be able to see and appreciate the artwork and the embroidery on that curtain, but you'd also be able to see the golden walls. And so this is probably the answer to this question, is what these walls were made of. And again, I tried to find a picture, but this is the best one I could find that showed the trellis of how they would go down into the silver frame and how they connect together. But most likely, unlike the picture here, is not solid. They would be like lattice. They would have holes in them. They would have spots where you could see what was on the outside, because you had that beautiful carpet, that beautiful covering that went over the top. And so God lays out this plan. Now, another thing God lays out, and let me go back a slide, is on the corner. You'll notice on the back corner there is a different setup. And that's because God told them how to make the corners. They had to have a certain way of doing the corners to make the corner stiff, to make the corner where it wouldn't give, so that when this building went together, it wouldn't move. And so God lays out very intricate details of how to put this tabernacle together. And so this is a very interesting part, because typically when we think about tabernacle, we don't think about the inside of what the walls. When we think about what's in it, we think about the covering over maybe on the outside, but not the construction of it. And this is the beauty of it, is the construction of what this facility would have been made of, what this building would have had around it. And we're not done there, because we're going to talk about some more things as we progress through this chapter. So let's pick back up in verse 26. You shall make bars of acacia wood, 5 for the frames on one side of the tabernacle, and 5 bars for the frames on the other side of the tabernacle, and 5 bars for the frames on the side of the tabernacle at the rear at westward. The middle bar halfway up the frame shall run from end to end. You shall overlay the frames with gold, and shall make their rings of gold for holders for the bars, and you shall overlay the bars with gold. Then you shall erect the tabernacle according to the plan for it that you were shown on the mountain. So again, notice that he's going to make 5 bars of acacia wood. These bars are going to go around the outside of this wall, and they're going to be 5 on each wall that are going to hold this tabernacle together, help hold it up. And again, you notice this idea. The north wall, the south wall is built away, and the west wall is built away. Whenever the tabernacle is moved, whenever they move and go from place to place, the tabernacle is set up in a certain way. The opening to the tabernacle, the opening door, both for the tabernacle itself and also for the courtyard, has to be pointing east. They're to set that east, then there's north wall, south wall, and the west wall. The west wall would always be covered. And so it's very important how they set this up. So that's why the author here and why Moses and God will make it plain over and over again that the rear wall is always the westward wall. The westward wall is the one that always has that was always going to be a full wall and never have a door into it. And so you put these bars, and in the bars you have on the walls, you have these rings that were to slide the bars in. And again, this was made for comfort, or made for travel, for easy to move. And again, he says, you shall erect it, you shall build it just as I've shown you. The exact way I showed you to build this tabernacle, the exact pattern you're to follow. We talked about that last week, how important it was. God says, this is what you do. This is the pattern you follow. Now, these bars, there's been some discussion about these, and this is another picture of this. This picture seems to show the idea that what possibly or what probably happened here is you'll notice there are 3 bars. There's 3 rows. One on the top, one in the middle, one at the bottom. What most people think, God said 5 bars. There's 5 bars of acacia wood that would be made. The middle bar, the one running down the middle, is the one that's required to be the length of the whole tabernacle. It's going to be 1 bar. And what most people think is the top and bottom, as you can see here in certain spots, there may be a gap, is that the top and bottom were shorter. The top was made of 2 bars, not 1. Only the middle was 1 long bar. So you had 2 bars up top, the 3rd bar in the middle, and then 2 bars on bottom that would have had a gap in them. Or could have been 2 bars that could have fit together. Again, we don't know. We don't have pictures. Nobody was able to take a picture of the tabernacle and say, oh, here's how it looks. But this is what the bars were. And again, they were there for stability. They were there to give this thing a way to move it, but also a way to set it into place and to hold it when you set it into place. All right, from there we go to the next verse. And he says, you shall make a veil of blue and purple and scarlet yarns and fine twisted linen. It shall be made with cherubim skillfully worked into it, and you shall hang it on 4 pillars of acacia overlaid with gold, and with hooks of gold on 4 bases of silver. And you shall hang the veil from the clasp, and bring the ark of the testimony in there with the veil, and the veil shall separate for you the holy place from the most holy. You shall put the mercy seat on the ark of the testimony in the most holy place. Now, we'll go on from here, And you shall set the table outside the veil, and the lampstand on the south side of the tabernacle, opposite the table. And you shall put the table on the north side. You shall make a screen for the tabernacle of the tent, of blue and purple and scarlet yarns and fine twisted linen, embroidered with needlework. And you shall make for the screen 5 pillars of acacia, and overlay them with gold. Their hooks shall be of gold, and you shall cast 5 bases of bronze for them. Now, notice something here. I want to go back here just a second. Notice the difference in these 2 things. We're going back to this picture. I know we've used this picture quite a bit this time, and I apologize I don't have a marker or something or something to highlight this, but you'll notice in the middle, right in the middle of this tabernacle, there are 4 pillars. There are 4 columns. This is what was going to separate the holy place from the most holy place. And this is what he talks about. You're going to make these columns that are going to sit here, and they're going to sit on silver base. That's what's going back for it. Said I wanted to catch something. These were set in silver bases, just like the tabernacle around it. And these were where you're going to put this down. Then you're going to put the ark behind it. Then you put the mercy seat on top of the ark. And then you're going to put the veil that separates the holy place and most holy place on these 4 pillars. They're going to hang on it. And it's going to separate these 2. And then once a year, one time a year, the high priest is going to be able to go into this most holy place. Otherwise, they did not enter the most holy place. The other was out front. If you look in the very front of this tabernacle, you'll see that there are 5 pillars. There are 5 pillars in this ark, or in the front of this ark, and these were to create the front wall. These were to be the ones where another curtain would hang, or a veil, or a gate. I forgot exactly how some translations had it. Screen, that's the word I'm looking for. A veil or a screen would hang in front of this that would prevent just anyone from seeing inside the tabernacle. You had to be very peculiar with this. So it allowed a place for them to go in and come out. And again, these were spaced out. Now, the other thing I want you to notice about this is that these were separated, or these were made of bases of bronze. Bronze was used, not silver, not gold. Now, this shows us the idea that I told you last week. The further you get from the ark, the further we get from the most holy place, the less and less valuable metals are used. In the most holy place, it's all gold. In the holy place, it's gold. Most of it's gold, except for these silver. There's some silver in there and a little bit of bronze in these bases. But as we go out in next chapter, we're going to go out into the courtyard. There's not going to be any gold. It's going to be bronze. And that's because it's further away from the most holy place. So depending on how close it was to the holy place was how much of a precious metal it was. And again, I don't want to say that to say bronze is not a very precious metal. It is, but it's not as precious as gold. And so this is what we see as we progress through here. So let's get into chapter 27. As we get into chapter 27, we're going to notice a few things. Sorry, checking my time here. You'll notice we begin in verse 1. You shall make the altar of acacia wood, 5 cubits long and 5 cubits broad. The altar shall be square, and its height shall be 3 cubits. And you shall make horns for it on its 4 corners. Its horns shall be of one piece with it, and you shall overlay it with bronze. And you shall make pots for it to receive its ashes, and shovels, and basins, and forks, and fire pans. And you shall make all of its utensils of bronze. You shall also make for it a grating, a network of bronze. And on the net you shall make 4 bronze rings at its 4 corners. And you shall set it under the ledge of the altar, so that the net extends halfway down the altar. And you shall make poles for the altar, poles of acacia wood, and overlay them with bronze. And the poles shall be put through the ring, so that the poles are on the 2 sides of the altar when it is carried. You shall make it hollow with boards, and it shall be as it has been shown you on the mountain, so it shall be. So notice a few things here. One, you take this altar. This is the altar of burnt offerings. Now, we're not told here what altar it is, but it's the altar of burnt offerings, the altar that's outside the tabernacle. And this altar, if you notice, 5 cubits by 5 cubits, is 7.5 feet wide, 7.5 feet long, and it's 4.5 feet high. So this is a pretty decent big altar. And they're going to build this altar, and on this altar, they're going to have horns. They're going to have placed a piece that comes out of it and going to sort of curl outward. A horn was a symbol of power. It's also a symbol of mercy. The priests are going to use these horns whenever they offer an offering on this altar. They're going to take the blood of that animal and they're going to pour out most of it. But part of that blood they're going to put on these horns, and that's going to symbolize their offering this offering to God. Another thing we're going to see later on is there's an image given in Numbers and even in Time of the Kings that if one was to go into the altar and hold on to the horns of the altar and beg for mercy, that he was supposed to receive mercy from what he was pursued for. And so they were build this altar. And again, you notice this altar was to be a big round box, or square box, 7.5 foot by 7.5 foot. And then in this box, to use with this box, forget what's in it. They're going to make you're going to make the tools you use in this box. Now you're going to overlay this box with bronze. You're going to make tools of bronze. Now you remember the tools in the tabernacle were made of gold. Here they're made of bronze. And what these were again, you make pots that you were to get the ashes out of this altar with. You're going to have a special shovel that dips the ash out of the altar into the pot that you carry off. Then you're going to have a basin. These were made for drink offerings. When a drink offering was offered and it was poured out to God, this is what it would be poured into, as a basin. And then you're going to have forks. What these were just big long forks that were used for dealing with the meat as you cooked as you offer an animal on the altar. I get out a minute, sorry. you were to use these forks to move the meat around. They would flip it over because part of it would be part of this on this altar would technically be about like a cooking because there were parts of the altar they were to eat, and then some of it was supposed to be burned up. And they would have to move it around to make sure it all burnt. And they would, they wouldn't cook it on this. They would have to stick their fork in, and they would take out a part. If whatever part come out, that was the priest's part of certain idols, of certain offerings. That was only certain offerings. But these forks were to help move the meat around. Then you notice the last one, they had the fire pans. How were they supposed to get the fire and bring it in, and how that was supposed to work. And you remember, they had a very special fire for these altars that were to be used. Then you notice that on the inside, apparently, there was a grate. There was a bronze grate that sat inside this altar and sat down in the ledge about halfway down, and there it was to be used. Now, exactly what this grate was to be used, we don't know, because some people, there have been some that think that you'd put the fire and the wood underneath this grate, put the grate on top of it, sort of like a grill, put the grate on top of it, and you put your offering on top of that. There are others who think that, well, honestly, what you could do to create the fire, because it's down a box, you can put the wood on top of this, on top of the grate, and you burn the wood on top of the grate as well as the meat. Therefore, you have a hotter fire, and all the ashes go to the bottom, and the air is able to circulate through this. And we really don't know, again, without us being able to be there and seeing it or see pictures or have a more detailed description of what they did. It's really a lot of guesswork. So we really don't know, again, if the fire was on top of the grate, under the grate, exactly what it functioned as, we don't know. But we do know that it's that there was this grate in there, and at least the meat will be on this grate. And then you notice that as well as moving this was one of the big bulkier items that were to be moved. This was to have poles on the outside. They were to have poles on two corners, and they would carry this off. And the inside was to be hollow. Again, this was to be almost just a box on the outside. The inside was to be hollow. And some people think that what they'd have to do is they'd have to bring this altar in, they'd set it down, and they'd pile it full of rocks or dirt to get it so high to where it would be close enough for that grate to work. But again, not knowing, we are not being it, not seeing it, we really don't have a good, concise idea of what was included in this. But based on this is an idea of what this would look like. Again, we've seen this picture before. I showed you a picture last week of this tabernacle. Of the tabernacle, what it looked like. This in front of it is what we're looking at, the altar of burnt offerings. And you'll notice it's a big box. And we'll look at a closer picture here. There's some idea again that probably you'll notice on this side there's a ramp. There's some thought that this would have been a ramp that they would have worked up to, and they would have gotten to get into it. Again, this is all speculation. We don't know for sure. But you notice on all the four corners there's these horns that were going out. That's the horns of the altar. These were where the blood would be put on, where you could go to. Some people think maybe the meat was to be tied to these horns. We really don't know all the details of it, but this is just given the description. This is what this piece of tabernacle furniture, I guess you'd call it, would look like. And again, we've moved from inside the tabernacle now to outside, because you'll notice again, let me go back, this is the courtyard. Now, what's interesting about the courtyard is there's another piece of furniture that we're not told about here. Just like in the tabernacle, there was a piece of furniture we've not been told about yet. We've not read about the altar of incense. Now, in the outside courtyard, we've not read about the laver where they're to wash. Why? Don't know. We're never told. We're never really given a reason, but there's not given until chapter 30. Chapter 30, I believe it is. We're going to find out about both those other two pieces that go in this courtyard that complete the picture. Next, you'll notice on the outsides of this, and again, I hate that I don't have a thing to click, or maybe I do. Yeah, okay. I'm sorry. It took me a while to figure this out. If you can see the little red dot, this outer wall, this is what we're going to talk about next, is this entire courtyard was to have this outer wall around it. All right, so let me go back to tabernacle real quick, to this part real quick, and let me show you. This right here is the horns. If you can see this where it flares out, this is the horn that we're talking about. These horns were part of it. This right here, where that red dot is the laver. It is the bath where they would wash. All right, so let's go on for now. Let's read this next part. Verse 9, you shall make the court of the tabernacle. On the south side of the court, you shall have hangings of fine twined linen, 100 cubits long for one side. Its 20 pillars and their 20 bases shall be of bronze. But the hooks of the pillars and their fillets shall be of silver. And likewise for its length on the north side there shall be hangings of 100 cubits long, its pillars 20 and their bases 20 of bronze. But the hooks of the pillars and their fillets should be silver. And the breadth of the cubit, and for the breadth of the court on the west side, there shall be hangings of 50 cubits, with 10 pillars and 10 bases. The breadth of the courtyard of the court, on the breadth of the court on the front to the east shall be 50 cubits. The hangings for one side of the gate shall be 15 cubits, with their 3 pillars and 3 bases. On the other side, the hangings shall be 15 cubits, with 3 pillars and 3 bases. For the gate of the court, there shall be a screen 20 cubits long, of blue and purple, and scarlet yarns, and fine twined linen, embroidered with needlework. It shall have 4 pillars with them 4 bases. And the pillars around the court shall be filleted with the silver. Their hooks shall be of silver, and their bases of bronze. The length of the court shall be 100 cubits, the breadth 50, the height 5 cubits, with the hangings of the fine twined linen and bases of bronze. All the utensils of the tabernacle for every use, and all of its pegs, and all the pegs of the court shall be of bronze. So here we see this tabernacle. Now again, this is sort of a zoomed out view of this tabernacle. This is again one that has been built, a replica, and you'll see the tabernacle's there in the middle, and you'll see this outer courtyard if you can. It's very hard to tell with the desert as it is, but this outer courtyard is what we're talking about. This outer courtyard was to be 100 cubits long by 50 cubits wide. It would be that's going to be 150 feet long and 75 feet wide. Basically, what this creates is 2 perfect 75-foot squares. This is where the tabernacle was to be. All right, so they would go from there. Let's go on from there if I can advance this. This is another drawing, sort of how this would look like, and I apologize. I may lose my video in just a minute. If I do, I'll try to bring up my secondary video, but if I don't, just know that the video will continue until I'm done. My camera just ran out of battery, so I will apologize for that. You'll notice back here, this is the courtyard. This is 100 cubits. Notice this right here, like I told you earlier. This gate, this dark black line right here is the gate, and it will always be pointing to the east. There's a back wall here, the west. The tabernacle will always have a solid wall on the west, and on the north and on the south. There will be, again, this length, 100 cubits by 50 cubits. And you could basically take this and cut it in half. You'd have the tabernacle here on one side, then you'd have the offering, the burnt offering, and the laver on the other side. So this is how this tabernacle would have laid out. Again, we'll go through these together. Here's the Ark of the Covenant. Right here will be the golden altar of incense. We've not got that one yet. Here's the table of showbread. Merritt told us the table was to be on the north side. The golden lampstand, take it back. We haven't got there yet. We're going to get there in just a minute. The golden lampstand is told, the golden menorah, so where it's going to be. Here's the entrance. The lavers here, the bronze altars to be here. Here's the gate. Now, this is what's interesting about the gate. The gate was to be 50 cubits. There were to be 15 cubits on each side of wall, and then a 20 cubit gate. And there's some discussion about this gate. How does this gate work? Some people think that the way this is described, and it could have been, that this would have been a curtain that went across the front, and almost like a curtain at a play or a show, or maybe in a store, it could be pulled back, and it would be show the tabernacle was quote unquote open for business. Or the way it's described, what could have happened, and this is what most people seem to think more so than the pulled back, is that this curtain would have been inset. So what I mean is maybe a couple feet behind, you'd have the outer wall, and a couple feet behind that, you'd have this curtain. And so what that would do is that would create an entrance. That would leave room for someone coming into the tabernacle to come inside the wall and then have to go around the curtain. But what that would also do is that would prevent anyone that wasn't supposed to be there to see inside the tabernacle, see inside the courtyard, to see what's happening inside. And it would protect the holiness. And that seems to be, from what I've read, probably the more popular belief, that this gate would have been inset a couple feet into the tabernacle courtyard, so that you couldn't just see it from the outside. You would see this gate, and it wouldn't be pulled back. You would be a solid gate, so you couldn't see what was there. Now, the other interesting thing about this wall, this wall is made of curtains, and again, notice this is a curtain wall. Wasn't to be a wall like the inside tabernacle, because this was to be portable. And again, 100 cubits be a lot of material to have to cover around, but they covered this with curtains, fine curtains, and they were to be tied in a certain way not to reveal this. And these curtains were to be 5 cubits high. That's going to be, I just lost my video. Apologize for that. Let me take 2 seconds to swap this out. I apologize. This camera here is not going to be as good, but it will get me video. Okay, we're back. Do apologize for that. The wall around the courtyard is 5 cubits high. That is going to be, I forgot. 7.5, I guess. Yeah, we already talked about that. 7.5 feet high. But what's interesting is that you remember the holy place and the tabernacle, the actual tabernacle, is 10 cubits high. So it's going to be when at a distance, and when you're looking at it, you could see the top of the tabernacle, but you could see the top of the tabernacle over the wall. So you'd be able to realize there's something there, but again, you couldn't make out the details. You couldn't see it as well. And so this was God's way of protecting and looking after the tabernacle. And so this is sort of what we're looking at, and this is just the layout of this. And again, I know this may or may not be interested to you, but I think this is very interesting layout of this tabernacle. Now, we're going to notice one last few verses of chapter 27, and we're done for the night, where he says, "You shall command the people of Israel that they bring to you pure beaten olive oil for the light, that a lamp may regularly be set to burn in the tent of meeting outside the veil that is before the testimony." Sorry, I hit the wrong button. That is before the testimony. Aaron and his sons shall tend to it from evening to morning before the Lord. It shall be a statute forever to be observed throughout their generations by the people of Israel. So God gives one last command here in chapter 27, that they are to bring pure beaten olive oil. This is pure, clear olive oil. This is said to have been the best olive oil possible, the best olive oil there is. So again, the best things to be used in this temple. And they were to light a lamp. Now, the question is this the lamp that is already in the tabernacle, or is this another lamp? There's, again, a lot of discussion. Some people think this is another lamp that was used to help in this tabernacle, but it could be the lamp that the menorah is at. The golden menorah, the one that's in the tabernacle, we really don't know. I think it probably fits the one golden menorah, but we don't, again, we can't 100% say for sure. But what Aaron and his sons are called to do is they're called to tend that lamp. And this tells us a very important thing about that lamp, is that lamp is to be burning all the time. Day or night, that lamp is to be burning. And then at night, it sort of gives the idea here from what it talks about. At night, Aaron and his sons would go in, or at evening, they would trim the lamps, they would refill the oil, and they would let it burn all night and into the next morning. And then at the next evening, they would come in and refill it. So these lights were to be continually burning before God. And again, this is a statute, he says, to be kept forever. And this is a statute they were to keep even at the time of the temple. So we get through this, and I apologize for a few of the little hiccups here and there. This just sort of happens when you record and try to get things done last minute. But that's the next part of the tabernacle. The next part of what we see, and we've seen that. I hope you've seen these pictures, what the wall would have looked like, and what the courtyard would look like, the entire layout of this tabernacle. Again, it's very interesting of how this thing is laid out, and how intricate the details are, that God wants this thing built just right, and God calls the people to build it just right so that it will function as he intends it to function. But for tonight, that's really all that I have. I hope this has been interesting to you. We still got a couple weeks. Next week, we're going to talk about Aaron and the priests. We're going to talk about their special dress. Then we're going to talk about the rest of the tabernacle in a few weeks. Then we're going to talk about the golden calf. Then we're going to talk about building the tabernacle, where I told you that's sort of going to be a repeat. But we'll get there as we progress through here. But for tonight, I appreciate you joining us. I hope this was in vain. I hope that the storms pass us by, that we don't have any trouble tonight. But again, due to the threat of severe weather and due to the problems that could occur, we thought it would be best to go ahead and record class and have it there for you to watch, so we wouldn't have to be worried about it at 7 o'clock. If you had to make a choice between watching Bible class or watching the weather, now you'd be able to choose. You'd be able to watch the weather and not have to worry about missing Bible class for that. So we're thankful again for this technology. We're able to do that. It's able to help us. And again, we hope that you and your family are staying safe. We hope everyone has a good week. We hope to see you all Sunday morning. But for tonight, again, we appreciate you being here. Appreciate you joining us. And again, we hope to see you soon and hope that everyone stays safe during the storms. And remember, if there's anything happens and you need us, please don't hesitate to call us and let us know. But for tonight, we appreciate you being here and we appreciate you tuning in. Thank you for your attendance, and we'll see you next time.